Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and I'm so happy to have you here with us today. We're going to have some fun. No telling where we're going, but hold on, I'm going to tell you in a minute if you don't already know. But before we get started, I want to say hi to Amnon.
Hello, Marion. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you
Well,
doing?
like always, it's
Yeah,
it's
it is.
morning somewhere,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't
Yep.
matter what we say,
Right.
right? It's good,
Good day.
good
Good
after
day.
morning, good after day, good night, whatever it is, right? Good day, right? What are you thinking?
Good morning.
Good, good morning. Good morning, night.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, night. Good morning, night. Whatever. Good morning, night. Well, everyone, I hope you had a great weekend, and it's going to be a great day and a great time to be at the Breaking Free show because we are going to be breaking free. So, we have all kinds of guests. You never know from one week to the next who we're going to have, what we're going to talk about because, we're talking about freedom, right? So, freedom comes in all shapes and sizes and all different ways that we get to break free and be in our own skin and live each and every day joyfully. And so today, I said to Amnon before the show got started, I said, we've been in boats, we've been on islands, we've been in caves, we've been all over the place. And today, my friends, we're going to be in a tree. So let me welcome our guest to you today, Patrick Brandt, who is in a tree. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, how are you, Marilyn?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great too. We're loving it up here in this tree.
Well, you're going to tell us all about it. And so, for everybody out there, you are more than welcome anytime during the show to call in at 919-518-9773 if you want to have a chat with the man in the tree or me. Well, that rhymed. And you can come in on Skype at computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice, computers 2K voice. If you'd like to chat, and we have a chat window open, you can come in there as well and ask questions and comment. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. So enjoy. All right, Patrick, you're in a tree. Like,
Yes, I am.
okay, why are
Uh,
you in a tree?
I love trees. That's probably the main reason. I'm about 90 feet up in a tulip tree right now, uh, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
And so
And there's
you
look,
are you are a tree climber. And what else
that,
are you?
tree climbing is kind of a side hobby for me, and I do it whenever I get a chance, and I'm always looking for an excuse to get into the tree. Uh, but my full-time job is at UNC Chapel Hill, where I work in the Office of Graduate Education, helping the grad students here at UNC to know what careers are available for them after they graduate.
So obviously, anything is possible, right? I mean, here we have somebody who's in a tree and is part of his fun hobby. What do we call that? Job hobby?
Yeah, I call it my jobby. My
Your
my wife came up with that term, so it's my job hobby.
job hobby, jobby. That's perfect. So you're 90 feet up above the ground, right?
That's right.
And then you're on a branch. What are you sitting on?
So I'm actually standing on a branch, and I'm tied in with strong arborist ropes. I'm tied in at two different spots, and my feet are on this nice big branch, and so I'm kind of triangulated. It's very comfortable right here. I don't know if you can see my hands. I don't need to hold on to anything. I'm just in a harness and tied in at two different places. It's really comfortable.
And so, how does it feel like to be in the tree? Oh, Patrick, can you hear me?
Oh, it's great. I don't. Fine. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. There are bug noises. I can hear the cicadas calling. Uh, about 90 feet below me, there's a little stream. I can hear that gurgling down below me. And every once in a while, there's some wind that comes through as well. So it's very peaceful up here.
So, how? What is the tallest tree you've ever climbed?
Uh, well, the tallest tree that I've climbed, I've been about 120 feet up in a tree that was a 140-foot tree. Um, Now, there are lots of people who get even higher than that. There's lots of people that climb in redwoods out in California, and those trees are over 300. Some of them are over 300 feet tall. So
Oh.
some people have been a lot higher than I have. I'd love to do that someday, but my highest is 120 feet.
And so, why? I mean, why trees though? Why is trees so interesting? I mean, what is it about trees that people really like?
Um, I, for speaking personally, enjoy about getting up in a tree. It's just amazing to me to see the all the lichens that are up in the top of the tree, the mosses, the leaves fluttering, the little down. They live their entire life in the tops of the trees. So I just think it's cool to be in a place where not many
Patrick,
people
we're
have had experience
Patrick.
on before, and just be out in nature in a different way.
So we're losing half of what you're saying, every other word. So maybe you wanna, yeah. Let's see if we can. Maybe if you don't move too much, maybe it'll be a better. I don't. Let's hear it. All right, everybody,
Oh,
bear with us because this is going to be fun. So don't go anywhere. It's part of being in a tree, part of nature too, right? How,
that's right.
so how long have you been doing this?
Oh, I've been climbing trees on rope like this for about 6 years. But I've been climbing trees a lot longer, of course.
So
Most of us climb trees when we're little kids and then forget about it and once we become adults.
so can anybody climb a tree?
Yeah, pretty much. So one of the things that I do on weekends is I lead public tree climbs, and anybody older than 6 is welcome to come and climb with me. And I've had people as old as 76, I believe, climbing trees with me. So yeah, pretty much anybody can do it.
What about physical strength?
So it does take, it's a, I mean, climbing up the tree itself. And so it doesn't take it's about the equivalent of running up a flight of stairs.
So we're we get some of what you're saying and then we're losing you. So it might be what do you think? Technology wise.
I can try calling in.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. What number should I call in at?
919-518-9773.
Okay, just a moment.
Okay, 919-518-9773. So everybody bear with us. This is going to be fun and interesting. So hold on, we're just going to get Patrick back. Is that him? All right. Hello?
All
All right,
right,
now.
hello. Now we're gonna have some feedback.
Yeah. Just shut the volume on your iPad, right? Shut the
Okay.
volume on your iPad. There we go.
All right.
All
How's
right.
that?
All right, let's try this. Okay, so we're going to
Okay.
be able to see Patrick. We're going to modern technology and nature all at the same time.
And the lag is not bad at all.
Oh, good. Well, this will work great then. Can you hear me can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so
Excellent.
now you're talking. I was asking you about the strength that it takes to climb a tree. So what is that like?
Yeah, so it doesn't take that much physical strength to climb. And pretty much if you're able to walk up a couple of flights of stairs, you could climb up a tree using the techniques that I help them get up into the tree. And and the nice thing about tree climbing is that you go at your own pace. If you just want to go up a few feet, that's fine. If you want to go up slowly, that's fine. Usually people climb with me for about 1 hour, and it's not difficult for them to get up 60 or 70 feet up into the air.
So are there certain trees that are good for tree climbing, and then certain trees that aren't?
Pretty much any tree that has big enough limbs you can climb. Some of my favorites to climb are white oak trees because they tend to have really spreading crowns, meaning that you can get up in there and really feel like you're in the center of a huge tree. These tulip tree, like the tulip tree that I'm in right now, it's also one of my favorites to climb because they tend to be really tall, so they will emerge out of the top of the forest and give you a really nice view.
So, like when you're walking around, I mean, I know, like I'm into people's feelings and emotion and how people are, and listening and all that kind of stuff to people and what's going on around
Uh-huh.
me. So, when you're looking at trees, do you just see trees that you can climb? I mean, do trees talk to you?
Yeah, definitely. There's a great story to the tree that the 120-foot tall tree that I was climbing in. I was coming out of my doctor's office and looked up on the side of a hill and saw this gigantic crown of a huge tulip tree. And yeah, so you talk about a tree talking to you. That tree definitely talked to me and said, "Come on over and check me out sometime, and it would be a great tree to climb." And so I filed that away till I had an opportunity to go and find it. It was on some public land, and I went and climbed it. It's a great one. I've taken a lot of other climbers to that very tree, actually.
Hmm. So, but do you generally have conversations with trees?
No, not usually. There are some people, though, that like to name the trees that they climb. That's definitely a popular thing. I do that a little bit. I do that in the trees that I climb, that I do public climbs in, just so that people can kind of feel more of an affinity with the tree. But I don't generally talk to them out loud.
Uh, and why do people, Chris is asking, why do people stop climbing trees, as children?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we start to think that it's too dangerous or that it's not what adults should be doing. And I think there's a part of becoming an adult where you're just things get too busy, and so you forget to slow down and enjoy life and enjoy nature, especially.
And this is a way to do it.
That's right.
So, how scared? I mean, I would be petrified. So, do you take
Uh,
petrified people up petrified trees?
well, let me tell you another story about that. So, um, one of the things I really enjoy doing is leading tree climbs at a local summer camp. And there's always like one of the kids who says they're scared of heights and they don't want to climb the tree at all. And so I say that's fine, you don't have to climb. But usually they start seeing their friends climb, and then they think, oh, well, maybe this would be pretty cool. And more often than not, they will get on rope, get into a harness, and I tell them, hey, you only have to climb you only have to climb as far as you want. You can climb as slowly as you want. And because tree climbing is it's not a very fast-paced activity. And so, in the time that they have, quite often they'll get up to the top 60 or 70 feet and they'll say, hey, I realized I'm not really that scared of heights like I thought I was.
So, is it
So
is it scarier going up or down, or doesn't it matter?
oh, I think it's probably scarier going up because there's a point while you're ascending where you can't always see exactly where your tie-in point is. Even if you know that even if you know your rope is on a good limb, even sometimes my brain starts questioning how strong that tie-in point really is. So yeah, I think going up is scarier than coming down because once you're up, you've been close to your tie-in point. You know that it's a strong one, and coming down is pretty easy.
And so, how long did it take you to get into that tree today?
It took me about 5 or 6 minutes to climb
Oh,
up 90 feet. I took a few breaks just so that I didn't get too sweaty. It's pretty hot and humid out here today.
ah, I didn't even think of that. And so, have you ever stayed in a tree like overnight?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's a common thing that a lot of recreational tree climbers like to do. Many people have slept in trees, and I've done that a couple of times actually. There's a hammock called a tree boat, and I've slept at about 60 feet up in a tree, and it's just amazing to wake up and hear the birds starting to sing, and they're above you and they're below you, and the forest just wakes up with you as the sun comes up. It's really an amazing opportunity.
Well, I read one of my favorite books, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was about this woman who lived in a tree for like a long time because she didn't want them. It was in California, I think, and they were going to cut the tree down.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I wonder if there was a lady who spent many hundreds of days. There's probably multiple people who have done that to protest logging. And the one that I've heard of was a lady in Australia, I believe, or New Zealand. I'm not sure which, but yeah, there are a number of people who have lived in trees for a long time.
So, have you ever taken a group of people up into a tree that where you all stayed in the tree and like camped out?
I haven't done that. The time that I was sleeping in a tree, there were other people in that same tree, but there are groups. There are climbing schools, tree climbing schools, especially on the West Coast, where people will do that, and you can pay to have a camp out in the tree. Yep. And the guy will even make breakfast for you in the morning in the tree.
That's kind of cool, I think. So, okay, so you can take up how many people at one time?
So I usually limit it to 6 people at a time up in the tree, just so that I can make sure that they're all safe and that they all, if they need something, if they have questions, that I can address any needs that they might have without being uh, spread too thin.
So, any kind of weather or just certain kind of weather?
Pretty much any kind of weather, as long as it's not thundering and lightning. We climb in a light rain, which can be a lot of fun too. The forest acts differently when it starts to rain. Different bugs will come out, and the experience is different. The ropes still work just fine if you're whether they're wet or not. So really, it's only thunder and lightning that you have to be concerned about when climbing.
Wow. Well, Chris put a quote on our chat, and I'm going to read it because it's really beautiful. It's from Bill Butler, and the quote is, let's see. Here is just some of the beauty of trees. They live and breathe, but they are never discontent with their lot in life. They're not jealous of other trees, never complain about the position they're in, never harm or injure any others, never whine about their neighbors, never worry about not being good enough, never worry about not having enough. And as far as the book, it was Julia Butterfly Hill. It's a great book.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I would highly, if anybody is interested, it's a really cool book, and she lived in the tree. I mean, for a long time, so it's really interesting. So
That's
any I'll have another question. Any weight will you take up in a tree, or do you have like a weight limit?
So there's no weight limit as far as the ropes or the tree are concerned. So the ropes that I use are standard arborist ropes. And the techniques that I use are the same techniques that someone would use if they were coming to your house to trim your trees. And so the ropes will hold 5,400 pounds. So no one's gonna. So that's plenty to hold whoever wants to climb. But there is a practical weight limit at which it's pretty tough to be able to pull your weight up. And so I found that that's about 250 or 280 pounds, depending on, how muscular somebody is. But it can be. I do have different ways that I can help people, even if they are heavier, to be able to get up into the tree using pulleys and other mechanical advantage, so that they can get the view that the rest of their family might be getting. But yeah, in general, 250, 280 pounds, it can get pretty tough, pretty strenuous. You have to exert yourself quite a bit to get that amount of weight up into the tree.
I just think it's fascinating. Like, what is one of the most heartwarming experiences you've ever had?
Well, I love it when families climb together. And that's sometimes the most fun tree climbs are when there's a family with teenagers climbing together. And teenagers, I've got a couple of them. They can be a challenge sometimes, and it can be hard to make a connection with a teenager sometimes. But I find that when a family is climbing up in the tree, they make a connection and make memories that can serve them well for a long time afterward. And so just actually last Saturday, a couple days ago, I had a family, a mom and her son and daughter, who were climbing, and they were rooting each other on and making great memories. So those are the kind of things I love to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think my husband, I know he's been in a tree when he was younger to help his brother down. He used to climb a tree all the time and get stuck. And of course, a cat. And I know you do that too, right? You help people get their cats down.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, like I said, I'm always looking for excuses to climb trees, and I found soon after climbing, learning to climb, that there was a community of people who know how to climb, who put their names on this worldwide directory of climbers who are willing to help people get their cats out of trees. And so I signed myself up, and that was back in 2011. And since then, I've rescued almost 150 cats that were stuck in trees.
Wow. So how has this like changed your life?
Uh, well, I think it's helped me to slow down and to appreciate nature in a different way than what I had before. I've always been a nature lover, but I've, I love learning about trees. I'm training to become a certified arborist, which involves a lot of book work and a lot of field work. Um, I love learning about how trees work together in the ecosystem to serve us as fellow people on the earth with trees and with animals and plants.
So it must really hurt you when trees get knocked down.
Yeah, sometimes for sure. If there's no reason, sometimes a tree is growing old, and you don't want it to fall on a home or something like that. And so sometimes trees do need to come down. But yeah, when there's no need for a tree to come down, that is hard. And especially, one of the things that's really hard for me, one of my early climbing trees that I had found, it just, for whatever reason, it had reached the end of its life, and it started to die. And of course, then it's not safe to climb. And that was sad for me to watch that process of it dying. I still go and visit every once in a while, but it's falling apart right now. It's out in the woods, and so that's sad. But it's all part of the web of life also.
Right.
So when those limbs fall down, they give back their carbon source to the area around it and feed the other trees around it.
Right. It's all part of nature, isn't it?
Yep.
So I know, and Chris, who works with us, and he's our like assistant producer, associate producer. She and her daughter went up with you. That's how we found you, right?
That's right. Yep. They climbed with me at the North Carolina, the NC State Arboretum last spring, I believe.
So tell us how good Chris is climbing a tree.
Well, she and her daughter were great. They were great climbers, and I can't remember how high they got, but I imagine that one or both of them probably got up into the tree and rang their bell at the top of their rope. Is Chris there to be able to
Yeah,
validate that?
Chris. Yeah, she is. She did say that it's scary to climb when it's windy, though. So I assume. Oh, is that her? What do you? I'm sorry. Say that again. Is that her? Okay. Okay. We might lose you a second, but hold on. Let's see. Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
me. Hi, everybody.
Hey. Okay. So tell us about your experience.
So I just missed the last couple minutes. Patrick, how good of a climber am I?
I think you were a great climber.
Yeah, we did this for a birthday present to me, and I took my daughter. I think it was early May this year. We went up with Patrick, and it from the road, the tree didn't look very big, but when you get to the bottom of the tree and you look up into the branches, you realize how high you're about ready to climb. But Patrick made it so easy, and really explained how to safely go up. And it always felt safe except when it got really windy. We had some storms coming through, not thunder and lightning, but definitely windy. So it was kind of scary to be up there with the wind, but it was okay after a little while. You definitely felt like you were in good hands, and you felt like Patrick was never going to steer you in the wrong direction. So we had a wonderful time, and I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Patrick was saying about how families really can come together. It was so fun to watch my daughter have a blast I remember when Patrick was telling the other kids who were climbing with us, and of course I was the oldest one, but he was telling everybody, if you want to go and flip upside down in those ropes, it is perfectly safe to do that. I chose not to do that, but that's okay. But my daughter flipped upside down and had the time of her life. And it was great to see her having so much fun, and I was rooting her on. And Patrick said that when he climbs with families and people, that he usually takes them up for about an hour. So the way I enjoyed the tree was it was just really neat to sit up there and look over Raleigh and just kind of be with the tree. Whereas some of the other kids they would go down and then they would ascend again and then they would go down. So everybody got to enjoy the tree however he or she felt it was most appropriate for them. And there was no pressure to come down if you didn't want to come down, and there was no pressure to go up more than once if you didn't want to.
Yeah, Chris, that's a great description, and it really is a very individual activity.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch everybody up in the tree doing their thing.
You hear me? So I have a question. Chris, how has
Yes.
this changed you?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked, because I didn't think it would really change me in any way. I love trees, period, and it was a little daunting though, when, again, as I said, you're looking at the tree from the street and you think, this is not a big deal. But then you really, it's all up to you to get up to the top of the tree. And Patrick has these cowbells that he puts in the tree so that when you get to the top of your rope, you can climb the cowbell if you want to. And when I climbed that cowbell, I felt very good about myself and what I had just done. So I think it was a good self-esteem booster for me that I could, in my old age, I could get up there and ring that cowbell.
Well, I imagine, and Patrick, everybody, people have different reasons for wanting to climb a tree. Whether it's they used to do it and want to do it again, or they never did it, or, what are some of the reasons people want to climb a tree?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's probably there's as many reasons as there are people who climb. I think you're right. A lot of them remember how much fun it was to climb a tree, and so they want to try it again. A lot of them are doing it for an experience with their children. About 2/3 of the people who climb with me are kids, and about the other third are, I would say, older than 14. And so a lot of parents, I think, sign their kids up because their kids are free climbing trees like 30 and 40 feet tall, and they're like, this is not a good idea. We need to find a safer way to do this. So they sign them up so they can climb in a more safe way. But yeah, I think some people, a lot of people climb with me because they want to learn and do it on their own, so it's a solitary experience of climbing on their own.
Well, I love this show for many reasons, but it always enlightens me and helps me pay attention to things that I would not have paid attention before necessarily. And yes, I look at trees and I like trees, but I've never looked at a tree with the potential of climbing a tree. And I think even if I don't ever climb a tree, which now I'm wondering maybe I will.
I hope you do.
Mean, how amazing to look at a tree and go, is this a tree you would climb? I can't even imagine getting my leg up on a branch though. But I'd have to pick a tree that has a branch that my legs can go up.
Well, I've had a lot of people tell me that on the way driving home from the tree climb, they're looking at trees along the highway in a totally different way. And that's another thing I really love about doing this, is that it gives people an appreciation for trees that we just take for granted so much.
It's great. And what about your daughter, Chris? How did she respond when she got done? Like, how has she been different? Or
she's actually one of the kids that Patrick was talking about, the kid who's way up in the tree and mom is on the ground worrying and fretting about her safety. So how is she different? I think it kind of opened her up to climbing. She loves to climb. She's always loved to climb trees, but now she's climbing, like rock climbing and things like that. So, she's just very open, and she's really open to taking more risks, I think, probably than I was when I was a kid. I was much more conservative than she is, and all the power to her. So I'm really glad that we were able to do this experience and be with Patrick and give her the opportunity to go back to school on Monday and say, guess what I did? And none of her classmates, could say, oh, I've done that too. She was the only one. And I think she really liked being able to say that.
Interesting. I had the kinds of parents, I think, that would say, oh, no, you don't want to do that. Or don't do that. It's too dangerous. So, a lot of people grow up that way. And I think that's what's so interesting about being able to share, Patrick and this opportunity wherever somebody is in the world. There are things that we can do, that help us break free, obviously. And this is one of those things. And I can't imagine, I've done things in my life since I've been married to somebody who's a little more adventurous, right? And that I could look back and say, wow, I did that. I jumped over that rock, or but this is one of those things that I've never climbed a tree, never even thought about climbing a tree, because never. So.
Well, I'll be back
here's
at the
your chance.
Arboretum in Raleigh on September 23rd. You should come and climb.
I mean, let me tell you, I would be a funny person climbing a tree. I mean, you might want to invite other people to watch because it'd be hilarious.
Well, Marilyn, if I think can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. What'd you say, Chris?
I said, if you can do it, or if I can do it, you can do it.
I don't know. My husband, oh my God, we'll have to talk about it because I think it'd be fun. And I would love, to say, look, because it certainly, I have to practice what I preach. So I have to take these opportunities and break free because it's what makes life happen. We just lost
exactly.
Patrick. Are you still there with your sound?
I'm on the phone, but it looks like the Skype just dropped.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I'm calling you back on Skype.
Okay, perfect. I mean, it's so important that we take the opportunities at hand, and whatever step that is, you don't have to climb 90 feet either. You can climb something that's smaller to start with. I'm sure there's a lot of smaller trees.
That's right.
So anyway, Chris, any other words about your experience?
Just that I'm so glad I did it, and I couldn't be more thrilled that we connected with Patrick. And as soon as we were done, I said, I think we're going to invite Patrick on the show if we can do it. So I'm glad we finally got him on the show a couple months after our experience at the Arboretum. Thumbs up if anybody wants to climb with Patrick. I cannot recommend him enough. And kudos, and thanks so much for a fabulous opportunity.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. So,
yep, definitely. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, honey, thanks. And just remember, Chris, Patrick is here. He's at our fingertips. But I'm sure wherever you are in the world, there is somebody like a Patrick who is a tree climber who will take people on trees, right?
There are people all over the United States. There maybe not a lot of them yet, but it's a growing activity. So there definitely are places pretty much in every state where you can have an experience like this.
So
it's called recreational tree climbing if you want to Google it.
Yeah. So it's a growing trend.
Yeah, it really is. It got its start in the mid 80s in Atlanta, Georgia, and it has grown from there to basically fill the world. It's really popular in Japan, actually.
Why in Japan?
Well, I think in Japan there's a movement, what they call forest bathing. And so instead of going out to the beach and going sunbathing, you go for a walk in the woods, and that's called forest bathing. And so there are people who have taken advantage of that interest and help people to get a different kind of forest bathing experience by getting up into the trees and not just staying on the trails down below.
But we're talking about people actually sunbathing. Is that what we're talking about?
No, they don't. I don't think so. I think that they are just walking around, but they are it would be like backpacking or hiking that we do here. It's become more of a thing there in Japan in recent years because of there's a lot of science about the value of getting outside and being among nature and breathing the fresh air and how that's good for you good for your physical body as well as your mental body, your mental.
Well, Amnan's got a question.
Yeah. I think it's easy to climb in Japan.
Why?
Why is that?
Because they have small trees.
That may be true. I don't know. I imagine they probably have some pretty big ones there too, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Is
you
it
know
true
what?
That their trees are smaller? Or
No,
are
you
just
know
making
how
a joke?
here it's a joke. You know, all those little trees that we have
Oh,
here.
bonsai trees.
Like a bonsai little tree or
Yeah,
something?
you know.
I gotcha. I don't. Is a bonsai a tree that you would climb? No. Perch, maybe.
No, and I'm not sure, but I think that bonsai trees are a general term for any tree that you've like meticulously pruned, and that's a little dinky tree. Now, I could be wrong about that. Maybe somebody can call in and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the art of bonsai tree trimming is where you have a little tree that's about a foot tall, and you take really good care of it, and you trim it so that it's beautiful and it looks exactly like what you want it to.
Well, Chris says, and she looked this up. Shinrin yoku is a term that means taking in the forest atmosphere or forest bathing. It was developed in Japan during the 1980s and has become a cornerstone of preventative health care and healing in Japanese. Whoops, it just left me. Japanese medicine. Researchers primarily in Japan and South Korea have established a robust body of scientific literature on the health benefits of spending time under the canopy of a living forest. What do you got to say for that, Patrick?
Yeah, I totally agree. It brings it slows down the world and helps you to see what's really important.
So Chris says boosted immune system functioning with an increase in the count of the body's natural killer cells, reduce blood pressure, reduce stress, improve mood, increase ability to focus, even with children, accelerated recovery from surgery. I can't even imagine somebody getting in a tree after they have been in surgery, but maybe just walking through the forest. I mean,
just walking through the forest and breathing the air and hearing the brook and experiencing that fresh air can do a lot for you.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot deny the fact that becoming one with nature, with living, breathing, vibrant nature, you can't, I mean, it's got to have some effect, right?
It does, yeah. Well, I felt it. I know it does.
So have you known anybody that was healed by walking in the forest or being on a tree?
Not healed from maybe a large, a big physical ailment, but definitely people who have had, less stress as a result of spending time in the woods. And, speaking personally, I can definitely tell you that when I'm up in a tree, it's a great relaxation for me and helps me to just center on what's important in my life.
So bring us to you work at UNC. You're the director of career development, right, for graduate students?
That's right. Yep.
So how does all of this relate to each other? Is there any relationship?
Yeah, to me there is, because I work with students who are getting PhDs in the life sciences, and they work really hard and really long hours trying to discover things about our bodies and how we react to diseases and how we can overcome diseases that plague our society. And it's a very stressful career that they have. And so when I meet with them and they're trying to decide what is it that they want to do after they graduate, one thing that I always tell them is they need to have their outlet. They need to have their hobby that they enjoy doing to be able to recenter and to de-stress. And, that's nothing new. People have been talking about that for a long time, but I can, give them as an example what I do. And I enjoy hearing about what they do to keep centered and focused and happy too. So actually, we did this may be of interest. We did I asked the grad students and the faculty members, the researchers that they work with, to send me pictures of what they do to improve their own wellness. And so I have a whole list, a whole compilation of pictures showing what the diverse things that all these scientists do to maintain their wellness. It's a great, if you wanted to look it up, you could look it up on either Facebook or Instagram with the hashtag Scientists Take Care.
So what do they do?
Oh, one of my favorites is one of the professors. Have you heard of Gregor Mendel? The guy, he was an early scientist, a geneticist who studied peas, and he studied the genetics of inheritance, and he came up with this idea of Mendelian genetics, basically. And so he was a farmer, basically. He loved to be out in the greenhouse crossing the pea plant. And so one of our professors has a garden and took a picture of him among his corn plants, and so that was one of my favorite pictures.
So I think that's really interesting, to take the stress off, and creativity, and a myriad of many things, is to really focus on some substantial hobby. Are you talking about something substantial, or anything, or a hobby's a hobby?
I think a hobby is a hobby, and it can change. I've done things throughout my life that brought relaxation and diversion, and so I don't think it certainly doesn't have to be something substantial or something expensive or something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. It just has to be something that you enjoy doing and that you're passionate about in the moment. And that can change in a year or in 2 years, and it might change depending on who your acquaintances are, if you enjoy doing your hobby with other people. So yeah, I think just the most important thing from my perspective is that the things that you do to recenter yourself, they just need to be things that you're excited and passionate about.
It makes a big difference in whatever you're doing day to day, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So has anybody ever gotten hurt doing this with you?
The worst thing that's ever happened is people get blisters on their hands, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So no, nobody's ever gotten hurt.
So do you wear gloves?
Sometimes I don't personally wear gloves because I've been climbing enough that I have calluses that, so I like to be able to grab onto the rope and feel the rope in my hands. I do have gloves though when people are climbing with me, in case they start getting a blister, and I can send them some gloves up the rope. But sometimes gloves just get in the way and they get stuck in the knots, or they can make it actually more difficult to grab onto the rope. So it all depends.
So what kind of crazy things have you done? Like, do you spin around? Do you go upside down? What do you do up there?
Yeah, I love to do what's called a bat hang. That's where you basically hang upside down in the tree. I can't do it for very long because my head starts to hurt, but so that's fun. I'm not really into it for the craziness factor. I'm into it for the communing with nature and relaxation. But I guess, some people might think that sleeping 60 feet up in a tree is kind of crazy, so maybe that's the craziest thing I've done.
So, this is so interesting. When you commune with nature, so do you have a trust in trees? Do you trust trees?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because a couple of the things that we've talked about have, gotten really close to this concept, and that the poem that you read earlier about how trees are, stalwart and they don't complain. Trees are super, super strong and amazing organisms. And there's this book by Peter Wollenben called The Hidden Life of Trees. And it talks about just the amazing, almost personality that trees have. And so, yeah, they're strong. They can embrace you. They can hold you up. They can give you strength. They can lend their strength to you. So I feel that when I'm climbing trees.
And there certainly is a grace about them, too.
Yes, that's definitely true.
And I guess you really have to experience to really understand even some of what you're talking about, I think. You know.
Right, and I think trusting your life to a tree and to the limbs of the tree give you a renewed appreciation for the tree
Yeah.
and for trees in general.
Amnon's got a
I mean, they're
question.
very
Yeah. Go ahead. No,
yeah.
no, finish. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that trees will, they are very adaptable. They can adapt to different weather patterns. They can adapt to the death of a limb. They can adapt to erosion around their base. They can adapt to a change in the sunlight in the forest canopy. So they're living, breathing creatures for sure.
Interesting. Amnon, what's your question?
Oh, Patrick, I mean, we see, we hear, and we see a lot lately about those zip lines. Do they have any educational value, or is just a way to take your life in your own hands?
Well, I love zip lines. I've been on lots of zip lines, and they can be a lot of fun. There's different kinds of zip lines you can be on. Like there's canopy tours that you can go on where you might be zipping through the forest canopy in Costa Rica or in the Amazon. And those do have, they're, zip lines are definitely a thrill activity, but I think that they have an educational purpose as well. And if they beckon people outside so that they, enjoy getting up into the trees and enjoying the forest, then I think they're a good thing.
Okay. Have you ever been on one? I'm none.
No, I'm not about to.
What's the most daring thing you've ever done?
I mean, we used to climb trees when we were kids. I mean, we
Okay.
had big, huge eucalyptus trees and berry trees and fig trees in school, and we used to climb them and eat up there.
And eat up there.
You know, the
Okay,
fruit.
but lately, since you've been like
No.
an adult, is there anything
Oh,
daring?
every day driving.
Eh. Well, I don't know. Um, so Chris has another question. She said, "Does Patrick have a spiritual experience as a result of his climbing experience? Have you had a spiritual
That's
experience?"
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, so I'm a Christian believer, and so I tend to think of spirituality in a different way than some of my friends who are tree climbers who are maybe not Christian but have more of a Mother Nature kind of theology, and so I wouldn't say that it's this is just me speaking personally. I wouldn't say that the experience that I have in the tree is the same as the kind of experience that I might have when praying or when reading Holy Scriptures. But it's definitely, there's something about being able to feel the Spirit of God in a place that brings you peace. And for me, that definitely is the forest, because I believe that God created everything, including the trees and the forest. And so when I'm here in the forest and here in the trees, I definitely feel that closeness to God.
So, do you have animals? Like when you climb a tree, are there squirrels more apt to approach you, or birds, or what's it like?
Yeah, I wish that the squirrels would hang out with me in the tree, but usually they get scared out, and so they usually vacate the tree if there are any in a tree that I'm climbing. But I have had some neat experiences with wildlife. One time I was climbing a tree with a good friend, and a pileated woodpecker flew below us. Those are the big red-headed woodpeckers. The Woody Woodpecker from the cartoon is kind of patterned after a pileated woodpecker. They are really unique animals and almost prehistoric looking. They've got a big red comb on the back of their head, and they're really big woodpeckers, the largest woodpeckers that there are certainly in this part of North America. And so that was neat to be able to see that. And actually, the tree that I'm in right now, I walk through this area occasionally when I'm coming to and from campus, and I have seen a pair of owls. I'm not sure exactly what kind of owls they are, but they live in this grove of trees. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a little a creek that runs down below.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've often startled the owls awake during the day as I'm walking through this area, and they will gracefully and silently go from one tree roost to another as I walk through. It's really neat.
So do you? I mean, this is a crazy question. So do you think they know you? Are they familiar with
You
you?
know, I think the owls here probably recognize me. I would think, because I do walk through here fairly frequently, and I've stopped and tried to get pictures of them, and they've never let me get close enough to get pictures. But yeah, I think that they recognize me. They probably see that that's the guy who is always trying to get pictures of them.
Uh-huh.
But they're pretty elusive.
You know, when you get comfortable in a certain place or environment, it does change. You know, I remember as a young woman, sometimes I would go into a house that was huge, right? And if I went into that house more often, it didn't seem as big. It got smaller,
Uh,
right? Or certain things change as you get more comfortable with it. So I'm so curious to really understand more about the forest, like the more comfortable, like I like to hike, but I think if you go on like the same hike, you know, the same path, it's going to be different than when you change your forest. There's something that tells me, go ahead, what are you going to say, Patrick?
yeah, I was going to say it's that familiarity that you were talking about. You know, a lot of people today are scared of going out in the woods because it might seem like a scary and unknown place, just because many people don't have experiences walking around in the woods or in the forest or in the field. And so I totally agree with you. The more that you enjoy nature and the more that you enjoy being outdoors, the less scary it seems.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where, you know, the first time that I was camping up in a tree at night, it was a little scary as night fell and the noises changed. But then it became almost like a very comforting experience as I got more familiar with it.
So these are all really good things to get me out into the forest and into a tree. So I really do
Good.
hope, yeah, and I really do hope that those of you that are listening, you know, maybe there's something you look into, something like this, or maybe it has something to do with rock climbing or mountain climbing, or you know, something that you start with that may be something you never thought of doing. I mean, I never realized that people were, until Chris brought it to my attention, I never realized that people were doing this. And honestly, sometimes you don't I'm debating, but in general, you don't always have to do something that other people are doing to experience a sense of freedom. You can experience a sense of freedom just by the knowing that it's being done. That in itself can lift you up. So it does not have to be where you go and you find yourself this 90-foot tree, but you can. You know, the options are there, but you can experience freedom just by listening to this show and knowing people do things that may be out of your box, but every time you listen to something out of your box, guess what happens to your box? It gets bigger, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, um, so you said you wanted to go to the, you know, climb these big redwood trees. Anything else in the world that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
You know, I don't think so. I'm pretty complacent. I'm not complacent, but I'm pretty. I'm satisfied with my life, and yeah, I'm sure that there'll be neat things that I'll do, but I'm happy where I am too. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to climb a redwood. That would be a neat experience.
And I think that's really important too. I think once you experience some things, you don't constantly have a hunger to continuously experience things. I think sometimes you become not complacent but comfortable, satisfied.
Hmm.
You know, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
You're being
satisfied.
right. You're being fed in another way, and I think freedom has something to do with that. I think when you're feeling a freedom, you're feeling abundant. You're not feeling a scarcity where you're needing something. You're already free. You don't have to keep finding it. It's already there. There is no such thing as in the pursuit of freedom. It's there. So, um, so okay. So if somebody is in this area and they want to climb with you, how do they find you?
They can find me by going to www.piedmonttreeclimbing.org. And then there's a couple of tabs there. They can click on the tab that says Public Tree Climbs, and they can sign up to climb with me on an upcoming weekend. There are also I also do private tree climbs and birthday parties and things like that, and there's information on other tabs about those things as well.
And can you share how much this costs?
Yeah, so the public tree climbs it's $18 for 1 hour, and then the private climbs it's either $100 for a 1 hour climb for up to 6 people, or it's $150 for a private climb up for 2 hours with up to 12 people.
Well, that's not so bad. I was
I
expecting.
try to make sure that it's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to take advantage of people, so I try to set the price such that I can cover my gear costs and turnover costs. But because it's a job hobby and I'm not counting on this to pay all the bills, I can make sure that it's accessible to people as well.
Yeah, I mean that's really pretty accessible. So I mean that's doable for a lot of people, I would think. That's very cool. Very cool. Okay. Okay, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, that's a very doable, outing. So, and you'll do private anytime, right? As long as the weather is right or.
Well, usually the private climbs are on weekends as well, since I work during the regular work week.
All right. So 6 and up, and, weight is pretty much sky's the limit. Right?
Pretty much, yep.
Cool. All right, so hold on, we're not done yet. So I have a book on Amazon that I want to share with everyone. It's called In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men. And you can find it on Amazon. It is a #1 selling book on Amazon. It's an ebook and a paperback. And it's a really interesting, intimate look into the lives of 22 men. So if you want to understand a little bit more about men, if you're a man and want to understand yourself and your other male role models and so forth, you can check it out. Women, I have a lot of women reading this book who want to understand men. So In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of Men, out on Amazon. So in closing, Patrick, what would you say to our audience?
I would say get outside and enjoy nature in whatever way you can think to do that, whatever way is comfortable for you, whatever way is enjoyable for you. And there's a lot of benefit that comes from just getting outside and slowing down and enjoying the world around us.
Yeah, and I might take you up on this. I think I'm gonna get my husband and I to come over there, and it's gonna be funny. And I'm promised with everyone when I do this, because I know I've taken the challenge before to do certain things where I wanted to sing once, and I had some group on, and I said I want to sing, and I had this whole group on, and they said, "Come sing with us," and I said, "I can't sing." They said, "We'll teach you," and I did go on the stage, and I did get a few of the song right, and a few, maybe a word or two that was like, "Wow, that almost sounded good." So I am going to take this challenge, and I'm going to come out there with my husband and have some fun. And who knows, maybe I'll get Amnon and his wife to come out with us, and we'll have some fun, right? So what do you think?
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be fun? And let's say if you live here in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area, here is a challenge. If you're interested in doing this and you want to do this with me, let me know. Write to me at marilynshannon.com. If you are watching this show and this is tantalizing you at all, which it is me, let me know, and we'll take some pictures, and we'll go out and we'll have some fun, and we'll say, look what the Breaking Free Show did now, right? Isn't that
That
true?
sounds wonderful,
Doesn't that
Marilyn.
sound like a good idea?
It does, yep.
We'll get a little group together and we'll go out and we'll climb a tree. So let me know, Marilyn at MarilynShannon.com, and we'll go climb a tree that Patrick says is a good tree for us to climb, right?
That's right. I've got a number of them in this area that are beautiful and fun to climb, and none of them are 90 feet tall.
All right, good. Because I don't really want a 90-foot to begin with. I mean, 40 maybe, 50, I don't know. But 90 is a little much. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yep.
You know, it's like anything else.
You can work up to it.
Yeah, until you really get started, you have no idea. So I don't want to say no. So remember, if you are interested, let me know, right? All right. So Patrick, thanks so much for being here with us today. It's been a blast. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you,
on the
Amnon.
tree. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having us in your tree.
You're welcome. Glad you could join me.
It's been a pleasure. And everyone out there, thanks so much for being here. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.